In an era where equipment is designed to become obsolete within a decade, there are crane trucks from the 1970s still earning their keep on job sites around the world. These machines have survived over 50 years of hard labor, technological change, and countless newer competitors trying to replace them. The 1970s was a golden age for crane manufacturing. These weren't computers on wheels. They were mechanical masterpieces built with steel, hydraulics, and engineering principles that have stood the test of time. Today we're counting down 10 crane trucks from that era that refuse to retire, machines that are still lifting loads, making money, and proving that sometimes they really don't build them like they used to. From small boom trucks to massive hydraulic cranes, these survivors represent the best of 1970s engineering. Let's dive in. Number 10. Grove TMS 300. Starting at number 10, we have the Grove TMS 300, a truck-mounted crane that first appeared in the mid-1970s and became one of the most popular cranes of its era. With a 15-ton capacity, the TMS 300 wasn't the biggest crane on the market, but it hit a sweet spot of capability and mobility that made it indispensable. The TMS 300 was mounted on a 2-axle truck chassis, typically an International or Ford, making it highly maneuverable. The telescopic boom extended to about 82 feet, which was perfect for utility work, tree service, sign installation, and light construction. What made these cranes special was their simplicity. Hydraulic cylinders extended the boom sections, a single diesel engine powered everything, and the controls were straightforward mechanical linkages that any operator could master. You'll still find TMS 300s working today, particularly in smaller operations and rural areas. These cranes have proven incredibly durable because there's simply less to break. No computers, no complex electronics, just hydraulics, cables, and mechanical components that can be rebuilt indefinitely. I've talked to operators who put 40 or even 50 years on a single TMS 300, replacing worn components but keeping the basic machine running. The maintenance on these old Groves is straightforward. Local hydraulic shops can rebuild the cylinders, wire rope is universal, and the mechanical components are simple enough that competent mechanics can fabricate replacement parts if needed. This ease of maintenance is a huge factor in their longevity. When something breaks, you don't need a factory technician with specialized diagnostic equipment. What's remarkable is how many of these cranes are still in daily commercial use. Sure, they're not competing for major construction projects against modern cranes with computerized load monitoring and advanced safety systems, but for smaller jobs where you need reliable lifting capacity and don't want the expense of newer equipment, a well-maintained TMS 300 still delivers. Some contractors swear these old Groves are more reliable than cranes built decades later, and the lack of complex systems means less downtime. Number 9. Link-Belt HC-218. At number 9, we have the Link-Belt HC-218, a hydraulic truck crane that exemplified American crane manufacturing in the 1970s. Link-Belt has been building cranes since 1880, and the HC-218 represented their expertise at its peak. With a 90-ton capacity, this was a serious machine designed for heavy construction, steel erection, and industrial work. The HC-218 featured a telescopic boom that could reach over 140 feet with extensions, and it was mounted on a 3-axle carrier that could travel at highway speeds. What made Link-Belt cranes special was their robust construction. These machines were genuinely overbuilt by modern standards, massive steel components, heavy-duty hydraulics, and engineering that prioritized durability over weight savings. Finding HC-218s still working today isn't uncommon if you know where to look. Smaller crane rental companies, particularly in industrial areas, often keep these old Link-Belts running because they're paid for, reliable, and still fully capable of handling many jobs. The hydraulic systems are simple and repairable. The boom sections are straightforward steel construction, and the diesel engines are often standard industrial models that mechanics understand. One operator I spoke with has an HC-218 that's been in his family's business since 1976. He estimates it has over 30,000 operating hours, which is extraordinary for any crane. The secret, he says, is preventive maintenance and not abusing the machine. These old cranes weren't designed with sophisticated load-limiting systems. If you tried to lift too much, something would break. Operators learned to respect the machine's limits, and that discipline kept these cranes working decades longer than expected. The HC218 also benefits from link belt's long corporate existence. Unlike manufacturers that disappeared or were absorbed into conglomerates, link belt is still around, which means parts and technical documentation remain available. You can still get genuine link belt components for a 1970s crane, which is remarkable in an industry where obsolescence is usually measured in years, not decades. Number 8. Lorain MC-530. Number 8 brings us to the Lorain MC-530, a lattice-boom truck crane that was a workhorse on construction sites throughout the 1970s and early 80s. Lorain, based in Ohio, built cranes that were renowned for their durability and lifting capacity. The MC-530 could handle 150 tons, making it suitable for major construction projects, bridge work, and heavy industrial applications. The MC-530 featured a lattice boom that could be configured to various lengths depending on the job requirements. Unlike telescopic booms that are self-contained, lattice booms are assembled from individual sections, which means they can achieve greater heights and handle heavier loads. The trade-off is setup time. Rigging a lattice boom crane takes longer than deploying a telescopic crane. What's impressive is how many MC-530s remain in service today, particularly in heavy industrial settings. Steel mills, shipyards, and large manufacturing facilities often have these cranes permanently stationed on their properties. The machines work daily, lifting heavy equipment, positioning massive components, and handling tasks that would be extremely expensive with rental cranes. The mechanical simplicity of the MC-530 is key to its longevity. The hoist system uses diesel-powered drum winches, technology that hasn't fundamentally changed in over a century. The swing mechanism is a massive gear system driven by hydraulics. These are components that can be maintained, rebuilt, and kept running essentially forever with proper care. Lorain was eventually absorbed into other companies, first becoming part of Coring, then Terex. But the MC-530's design was so solid that parts interchangeability with later models is often possible. Many components like wire rope, sheaves, and hydraulic fittings are standard industrial items available anywhere. Specialized parts can sometimes be fabricated by machine shops using the original parts as templates. I've seen MC-530s that have been completely rebuilt. New engines, updated hydraulics, even modern control systems retrofitted onto 1970s machines. These Franken cranes combine the robust basic engineering of the original with improvements in efficiency and safety. It's a testament to how good the fundamental design was that it's worth investing in major rebuilds rather than replacement. Number 7. American 5299. Coming in at number 7, we have the American 5299, a lattice boom truck crane from American Hoist and Derrick Company. American was one of the legendary names in crane manufacturing, and the 5299 was their heavy-duty offering in the 1970s, capable of lifting up to 200 tons. The 5299 was built on a massive multi-axle carrier and featured a lattice boom that could extend well over 200 feet with proper jibs and extensions. This wasn't a crane for everyday construction. It was designed for heavy lifting applications where nothing smaller would suffice. Refineries, power plants, and major infrastructure projects were the 5299's natural habitat. What makes the survival of these cranes remarkable is that American Hoist and Derrick went out of business in the 90s. When a crane manufacturer disappears, conventional wisdom says their equipment becomes orphaned, parts dry up, technical support vanishes, and the cranes gradually become unserviceable. But the 5299 has defied this expectation. The reason comes down to the crane's design and the ingenuity of the people who operate them. The basic components, diesel engines, hydraulic pumps, wire rope drums, are generic industrial equipment that doesn't depend on the original manufacturer. The lattice boom sections are simple welded steel structures that competent fabricators can repair or even reproduce. And the crane's mechanical systems, while sophisticated, are comprehensible to experienced mechanics without relying on proprietary electronics. You'll find surviving 5299s in heavy industrial applications where their massive capacity remains valuable. Some have been extensively modified over the years, modern engines replacing worn-out power plants, updated hydraulics for better efficiency, even retrofitted control systems. The original American Hoist engineering was so solid that these machines serve as excellent platforms for upgrades. There's also a small cottage industry of specialized crane rebuilders who focus on keeping these orphaned machines running. They've reverse-engineered parts, created cross-reference guides to modern replacements, and developed expertise in maintaining equipment the original manufacturer never imagined would still exist. It's industrial archaeology meeting practical necessity. Number 6. Grove RT58. At number 6, we have the Grove RT58, a rough terrain crane that became one of the most popular cranes of the 1970s and early 80s. With a 30-ton capacity, the RT58 wasn't the biggest crane Grove built, but it might have been their most successful. These machines were absolutely everywhere, and decades later, many are still working. The RT58 was designed for mobility and versatility. Mounted on a single chassis with four-wheel drive, it could navigate rough job sites that would stop truck cranes. The telescopic boom extended to about 94 feet, and the crane could set up quickly with hydraulic outriggers. This combination of off-road capability, decent capacity, and quick setup made the RT58 ideal for everything from general construction to industrial maintenance. What's remarkable about RT58 longevity is how many remain in commercial service. Drive past any sizable construction project, and there's a decent chance you'll see one of these cranes from the 70s working alongside equipment built decades later. They've become almost invisible through their ubiquity, just another piece of yellow iron on the job site. The secret to the RT58's survival is bulletproof engineering combined with practical design. Grove built these cranes tough, with simple hydraulic systems and mechanical components designed for rough use. The boom sections are straightforward steel construction, the hoist system is uncomplicated, and the engine is typically a standard diesel that any mechanic can work on. Maintenance parts remain readily available because Grove, now part of Manitowoc, kept supporting these cranes far longer than anyone expected. Additionally, the RT58's popularity means there's a robust aftermarket for components. Multiple companies manufacture compatible parts, and there's an active secondary market for used components from cranes being parted out. I've talked to contractors who've run the same RT58 for 40 years or more. They've rebuilt the hydraulic system, replaced the engine, updated controls, and continuously maintained the machine. At some point, you have to wonder if it's still the same crane or if it's become a ship of Theseus situation where every part has been replaced. But the basic structure, the boom, the carrier frame, the fundamental design, remains that original Grove engineering from the Number 5. P&H T655. Number 5 takes us to the P&H T650, a truck crane from Harnisch-Veger Corporation's P&H division. P&H was one of America's great industrial manufacturers, and the T650 represented serious lifting capacity in a mobile package. This crane could handle 200 tons, making it suitable for major construction and heavy industrial work. The T650 featured a telescopic boom that could extend over 150 feet, and it was mounted on a multi-axle carrier designed for highway travel. What made P&H cranes distinctive was their engineering philosophy. These machines were built like mining equipment because P&H also manufactured massive mining shovels and drag lines. That DNA showed in every aspect of the T650's construction. Finding T650s still working today is less common than some other cranes on this list, but they're out there. The machines that survive tend to be in heavy industrial settings, where their massive capacity remains relevant. Some have accumulated tens of thousands of operating hours, which is extraordinary for any crane, let alone one from the 1970s. The challenge with T650 survival is that P&H exited the truck crane business decades ago, and later corporate ownership changes meant parts and support eventually dried up. But the cranes were built so well that owners found ways to keep them running. The hydraulic components, while specialized, operate on standard principles and can be rebuilt by competent hydraulic shops. The diesel engines were typically Detroit diesel or Cummins units that remain supportable, and the steel structures are simple enough that welders can make repairs. What's particularly interesting about surviving T650s is that many have become semi-permanent installations. Rather than being mobile cranes that travel between job sites, they've become stationed at large industrial facilities where their capacity is needed regularly. In this role, the T650's age becomes less relevant. It's essentially permanent equipment that happens to retain mobility if needed. The T650 also represents a lost era of American industrial might. P&H, based in Milwaukee, was one of hundreds of manufacturers that made the United States an industrial powerhouse. Most of those companies are gone now, but their products sometimes outlive them. Every working T650 is a rolling reminder of American engineering excellence from a bygone era. Number 4. Manitowoc 4100W. At number 4, we have the Manitowoc 4100W, a lattice-boom crawler crane that became legendary in the heavy construction industry. Manitowoc has been building cranes since 1925, and the 4100W, introduced in the mid-1970s, represented their expertise at its finest. With a maximum capacity of 440 tons, this was a machine designed for the biggest jobs. The 4100W isn't a truck crane, it's a crawler crane that moves on massive tracks. These machines aren't designed for highway travel. They're assembled on site and stay there until the job is complete. But the 4100W's longevity is so remarkable that it deserves inclusion. Some of these cranes have been working continuously for nearly 50 years. What makes the 4100W special is its modular design. The crane can be configured with different boom lengths, counterweights, and attachments depending on the job requirements. This versatility means a single 4100W can handle a wide variety of lifting applications. The lattice boom construction is simple, robust, and essentially timeless. Good engineering from 1975 works just as well in 2025. The 4100W uses diesel engines to power hydraulic systems that drive the crawlers, swing the boom, and operate the hoists. These are mechanical systems that competent mechanics can maintain indefinitely. Manitowoc's continued existence as a company means parts and technical support remain available, which is huge for longevity. You can still call Manitowoc about a 1970s crane and get help. You'll find 4100Ws working on major infrastructure projects worldwide. Bridge construction, dam work, power plant maintenance, anywhere you need to lift extremely heavy loads, the 4100W remains relevant. Some of these cranes are owned by contractors who've built their businesses around them, and the machines have essentially become family heirlooms passed between generations. The economics of keeping a 4100W running makes sense at this point. The crane has long since been paid for, and while maintenance isn't cheap, it's far less expensive than buying new equipment with similar capacity. As long as the machine remains mechanically sound and meets safety requirements, there's no compelling reason to replace it. Good engineering doesn't expire. Number 3. Bucyrus-Erie 30B. Coming in at number 3, we have the Bucyrus-Erie 30B, a lattice-boom truck crane that was one of the most capable mobile cranes of the 1970s. Bucyrus-Erie was an American crane manufacturer with roots going back to 1880, and the 30B represented their understanding of what contractors needed for heavy construction work. The 30B could handle up to 300 tons depending on configuration, with a lattice boom that could extend to extreme heights with proper jib sections. This wasn't equipment for everyday construction. The 30B was designed for major projects where lifting capacity was paramount. Heavy industrial construction, large-scale infrastructure work, and specialty applications were this crane's domain. What's remarkable about 30B survival is that Bucyrus-Erie went through multiple corporate changes over the decades, eventually being absorbed into Caterpillar. Yet these cranes continue working, often in demanding industrial environments where their capabilities remain valuable. The machines that survive tend to be extraordinarily well maintained, owned by operators who understand the value of what they have. The 30B's mechanical systems are comprehensible and maintainable. The diesel engines that power these cranes are standard industrial units, Detroit diesel, Cummins, or similar, that remain supportable. The hydraulic systems, while sophisticated, operate on principles any hydraulics expert can understand. The lattice boom is simple welded steel construction that competent fabricators can repair or modify. Some 30Bs have been so extensively rebuilt over the years that they're essentially new cranes built around original structures. Modern engines replace worn power plants, updated hydraulic systems improve efficiency, and sometimes even control systems are retrofitted. But the fundamental bones, the boom, the rotating bed, the basic mechanical design, remain that Bucyrus-Erie engineering from the 1970s. The 30B represents something important about industrial equipment. When machines are built properly, without planned obsolescence, and when they fill a genuine need, they can last essentially forever. Every working 30B is a testament to engineers who designed equipment to be maintained rather than discarded, and to operators who've invested in keeping these machines running. Number 2. Liebherr LTM 1040. At number 2, we have the Liebherr LTM 1040, one of the earliest mobile hydraulic cranes from the German manufacturer that would eventually dominate the industry. Liebherr introduced the LTM 1040 in the early 1970s, and it represented a significant advancement in mobile crane technology. With a 40-ton capacity, it was designed for versatility rather than maximum lifting power. The LTM 1040 was revolutionary for its time. It featured a telescopic boom that could extend to about 100 feet, hydraulic outriggers for stability, and all-wheel drive for mobility. The crane could travel at highway speeds between job sites and set up quickly once it arrived. This combination of capabilities made it incredibly popular with contractors across Europe and eventually North America. Finding LTM 1040 still working today is surprisingly common, particularly in Europe where the model was most popular. Liebherr's reputation for quality and their continued corporate existence means these cranes have received ongoing support for decades. Parts availability, technical documentation, and service expertise have never disappeared, which is crucial for equipment longevity. The LTM 1040's hydraulic systems, while sophisticated for the 1970s, are simple by modern standards. They're comprehensible, maintainable, and repairable by competent technicians. The telescopic boom is straightforward in design. Hydraulic cylinders extend nested boom sections. The carrier uses Mercedes-Benz axles and components, bringing automotive reliability to crane design. What's particularly impressive about LTM 1040 longevity is that many remain in commercial rental fleets. These aren't museum pieces or hobby projects. They're working cranes that earn money every day. Rental companies keep them because they're paid for, reliable, and perfect for smaller jobs where newer, more expensive cranes would be overkill. Liebherr has continuously improved crane technology since the 1970s, but the fundamental design principles established in cranes like the LTM 1040 remain valid. The company's engineering philosophy prioritizes longevity and maintainability, which means their cranes from decades ago can still be kept running economically. It's a stark contrast to modern equipment designed around shorter service lives. Number 1. Link-Belt LS318. And at number 1, we have the Link-Belt LS318, a lattice-boom crawler crane that might be the single most durable crane design of the 90s. Link-Belt introduced the LS318 in the late 1960s and continued production into the 1990s, and these machines have proven essentially indestructible. The LS318 is a 150-ton crawler crane with a lattice boom that can be configured to various lengths. Like all crawler cranes, it's not designed for highway travel but rather for extended stays on major construction sites. What makes the LS318 special is the sheer number that remain in service today. Some estimates suggest that over half of all LS318s ever built are still working, which is an extraordinary survival rate for 50-year-old equipment. The secret to LS318 longevity starts with Link-Belt's engineering. These cranes were built during an era when American manufacturing meant something, when products were designed to last and companies stood behind their work. The LS318 features massive steel components, simple but robust mechanical systems, and a design philosophy that prioritized repairability. The mechanical systems on an LS318 are straightforward. Diesel engines power hydraulic pumps that drive the crawlers, swing mechanism, and hoist drums. These are components that haven't fundamentally changed in decades. The lattice boom is simple welded steel construction that any competent fabricator can repair. The wire rope systems use standard industrial components available anywhere. Link-Belt's continued existence as a crane manufacturer means the LS318 has never been orphaned. You can still get genuine Link-Belt parts for these cranes, and the company maintains technical documentation going back decades. This level of support is extraordinary and a major factor in why these cranes continue working. You'll find LS318s on job sites worldwide. Bridge construction, building foundations, industrial maintenance, infrastructure work. Anywhere you need reliable 150-ton lifting capacity, the LS318 remains relevant. Some are owned by contractors who've operated them for decades, maintaining them meticulously and treating them as valuable business assets rather than disposable equipment. The LS-318 also represents something philosophical about how we approach equipment and longevity. In a world increasingly dominated by planned obsolescence and throwaway culture, these cranes stand as counterexamples. They prove that when something is built properly, maintained correctly, and treated with respect, it can last essentially forever. Every working LS-318 is a rolling rebuke to the idea that old equipment must be replaced simply because it's old. So there you have it, 10 crane trucks from the 1970s that refuse to retire. From the versatile Grove TMS 300 to the legendary Link-Belt LS-318, these machines have survived decades of hard work, technological change, and newer equipment trying to replace them. What these cranes teach us is valuable. They were built during an era when engineering prioritized longevity over cost savings, when equipment was designed to be maintained rather than discarded. The companies that built them stood behind their products, providing parts and support that extended far beyond what modern manufacturers typically offer. But longevity isn't just about how machines are built. It's also about how they're treated. Every crane on this list has survived because someone cared enough to maintain it properly. These aren't machines that were run hard and neglected. They're equipment that received regular maintenance, careful operation, and respect from the people who depended on them. There's something inspiring about equipment that outlasts its expected lifespan by decades. In a world that constantly pushes newness and encourages replacement, these cranes prove that quality endures. They're working monuments to an era of American and European manufacturing excellence, and they continue earning their keep on job sites around the world. What's your experience with old cranes? Have you operated or worked around any of these machines? Do you know of other 1970s cranes still working today? Share your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear about the old iron that's still earning its keep. Thanks for watching. And remember, they really don't build them like they used to. And sometimes that's a shame.